But these elections last couple Tuesdays was a huge wake-up call because he is now dialed in on affordability. He's banging the drum, and now he'll probably go into campaign mode. He's the best when he's in that retail politic mode, when he works the McDonald's fry machine, when he puts on the trucker thing. Send him out to a cattle ranch. Send him out to a farm. Go to a small business that's been helped by the tariffs. Do something like that. Because next year is the crucial year. Next year, you have the tax cuts that set in, all the trade deals, all the foreign investment flow in. And if you could get rates down and start fast-tracking power plants and housing startups, you can really, really create a boom. But the American people need to help themselves, too. The government can't do everything. You got to snatch the American dream. You got to sacrifice. When you're young, you got to bust your butt. You got to fall in love. You got to take risks. You got to save money. All of those things are out there for the taking. You just have to grab it.
All right. So, Kennedy, Jesse didn't answer my question, so I posed it to you.
That's how I know he needs to run for office.
Yes, exactly.
Because he will take anything and twist it around to something he wants to talk
Exactly.
about.
So you have Trump, who's 80-20 on every issue. He's right on the right side of issues, but the Democrats don't join it because it's Trump. What does Trump do is he sees that affordability is a good issue. And he jumps into it with different solutions. That's what the Dems should have tried.
They should have tried that. They lost on that. That's why they lost 2024, in addition to having a horrible candidate. But if they had leaned into the populism that got Trump to office in the first place in 2016 and realized that that's where the voters were at, but instead they abandoned them for all the snobby, weird, elitist issues about transgendered men playing in women's sports, and they bet on the wrong side of that issue. We didn't even know what an 80-20 issue was until Trump exploited it. But the problem is, as these elections just showed us in New Jersey, Virginia, here in New York City, is that Republicans did cede a lot of ground on the populism and affordability. And voters get really skittish. And this is, Harold and I talked about this last week, the fickle voters, when they feel like they still can't afford anything, they know no party. And they didn't like Biden lecturing them for 4 years saying, hey, inflation is fine. You can afford everything. And they were worried that Trump was starting to do the same thing, because the problem is, if you're touting only certain aspects of your economy, you are turning your back on the real pain that people are facing. Now, what he has to reconcile is, are his tariffs exacerbating that? And will giving people this $2,000 tariff credit create an inflationary environment? And if that's the case, he's kind of making the argument against his own tariffs.
Except, though, he's not printing money. He's just taking...
That's the Fed, which we have to end. Thank you, Ron Paul.
You print money, you create inflation, Sandra, but I don't have to tell you that. You're a news lady.
Thank you very much.
But now, when Trump left office in 2020... inflation was at like 1.7. When Biden left office, it was under 10%. So now he's getting it back down. It's about 2.7%. It's like, has the media deliberately forgotten the cost of eggs and gas under Joe?
I think that's a completely fair point. But I remember on Inauguration Day, we were standing in Washington watching the president give his speech, and he talked about bringing prices down, not slowing inflation. And I remember thinking that's going to be a major challenge for him to follow through on, because historically bringing down the prices is extremely challenging and it takes a long time. But he has slowed inflation. He's been able to follow through on that. Our inflation right now is half what it is from where Biden handed it off. But if Democrats want to scream about an affordability crisis at $3 a gallon gasoline nationally, according to AAA, what was it at $5 under Joe Biden? Where was the affordability crisis there? And by the way, I have this printout. I know, I am the news lady, Greg.
You are
the American stock market, which
Yes.
is most people's retirement, okay, and long-term investments, is up 12% and at a record, okay? Crude oil is down 22%. Gas is back down to $3. Most people say in their areas it's even lower than that. Egg prices are down 30%. But what is down, to both your points, is consumer confidence. It's down 10% since Trump took office. And so you have to ask why that is, why people feel that way, even though prices are down, gas is down, oil is down, some food prices are down. Why do they feel that way? And Republicans would be very smart not to ignore that.
What do you say, Harold?
So good to be with everybody. I think Kennedy, I agree with 99.9%. I can't figure out the 0.1% of what she just shared. And I think we all have to take into account politics. The most urgent issue in politics is everyone's economic and money issues. Unfortunately, most Americans don't have the luxury of looking back where they were 6 months, a year ago, a year and a half ago. This notion of complaining about President Biden is nonsensical. Can you imagine Thomas Jefferson complaining about George Washington?
He did all the time.
Or John Adams complaining about George Washington. That Revolutionary War lasted too long. If it hadn't lasted so long, I'd be way up in the polls. We are at a moment right now where, as Kennedy mentioned so well, the president has offered basically two enormous ideas to help reduce prices and help wages go up. One was the big, beautiful bill. The president and his Secretary of Treasury says that the fruits of that bill will really manifest itself come next year. Well, we just had an election. People talk about the fickleness of the electorate. What really that fickleness is people are saying, are you delivering on what you said you were going to deliver on? The reason Kamala Harris lost is because she was perceived to be what Joe Biden was. When she answered that question, I can't think of anything I would have done differently over the last 4 years. And voters said, you know what? Any chance of giving her, we're going to take a risk with her. We can't do it now. Two, the affordability issue has been the number one issue in every single election. We're able to color around the issue a bit as we talk about border security and crime, but all those issues are directly tied to people's economic plights and their economic fortunes. The president, instead of blaming Democrats, instead of blaming Biden, the admission that tariffs was, to Kennedy's point, you said it so well, lowering the tariffs on food is an admission that it increased the price of food. If the big, beautiful bill does not drive up or does not drive growth in everyday people's lives come next year, this will be a very difficult election for President Trump. Not because it's President Trump, because that's how American politics works. And if you don't recognize that, all you have to do is look back at the only polls that matter in their elections. We had one 2 weeks ago. And Democrats cleaned the clock of Republicans all across the country. A year earlier, Republicans and President Trump cleaned the clocks of Democrats. Democrats, if you don't offer answers, you will find yourself in a tough spot next year as well. And President Trump, I just don't believe that blaming Democrats and blaming Biden is going to be the answer or the path to victory.
Well, what is the Democrat plan to lower prices?
Democrats have said that you ought to extend the subsidies for health care.
What is the plan to lower prices?
They don't believe in the tariffs the way the president's gone about it. Look, at the end of the day, their plan is not as clear as it should be, Jesse.
Okay, that's an admission
Jesse,
you don't have a plan.
But Jesse, here's the thing, though. If that's your answer, I love it.
I'm just questioning what your plan is. You have to decide whose plan is better. And next year they'll decide. Right now you're deciding between someone that has one and people who don't.
The plan that's out there sucks. It's not working. I can admit when my plan is not working.
It's not working? Wait, we got low gas, we got jobs, we got border security.
You have 3%.
You got a hot stock market. You got investment.
The stock market is driven by 10 stocks.
It's getting there,
tied to
Harold.
the massive investments.
It's 9 months.
Jesse, I hope you're right, but here's the reality. Your plan is not working so far. And I can admit when my plan.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, you know what?
When Trump left office in
2 weeks ago,
it was 1.7%. Now it's 2.7%. After it being almost 10% under Biden. So I don't know what you're talking about.
People can't afford beef. They can't afford bananas. They can't afford insurance. They can't afford health care. That's where the everyday American...
Okay, if you look at insurance... Okay, you did a list there. A lot of those have to do with Democrat policies, insurance included. The interesting thing, you bring up tariffs, that's a non-permanent policy. That's what Trump does. He never picks something that is permanent. So if it doesn't work, then these reciprocated tariffs. I can lower it here on a product that we don't make. I can increase it on a product that we make. He doesn't choose permanent solutions like the Democrats. Hey, your kid's depressed, cut off their junk.
Correct. The problem is if you and I have a business and he keeps raising, lowering, we can't adjust. Small businesses, huge companies can't adjust. But a small business woman in this country, a medium-sized business guy in this country, they can't adjust to the whims of the president who every day...
Small businesses are enjoying the rollback of an enormous amount of regulations and lower taxes.
I disagree with you 100%. The facts don't. I adore you, but I do not agree with you on that. The facts do not support that. Big business can adjust better than small business, and all you have to do is look at the election results to show that.
You have never said "I adore you" to me.
I've always told you I love you.
Yes,
Thank you, Harold.
but it's different.
What would you rather have?
I would rather be adored. Stone Roses. Up next, President Trump is turning the tables on the Democrats after the House votes to release the Epstein files.